soft skills calls. You know the drill. We've got the call recorded for our friends who aren't able to join us today. So if you haven't seen that notification pop up in the corner yet, you'll see it here in just a moment. But we've got a great topic for you guys today. You may be wondering what the heck is the art of structure? And I'm super excited to have Miss Amy on the line, Market Director out of Central California, to share with us and really bring us through a great journey. So welcome, Amy. How are you today?
Hi, thanks, Mary. I'm doing well. Thanks. How's everybody doing? Thanks for having me. And we're going to talk about the art of structure. And Mary already introduced, so I want to introduce myself. Thank you. Okay, so many of us are new managers, or even if you're a seasoned manager, in our restaurants, one of the primary roles is to coach and develop our team members. We're always striving to improve and to achieve excellence, but this often comes with a need for big changes. We may be ready and excited about these changes, but most often we're met with resistance from our team members when we try to implement these changes in our restaurant. There's an art to change management, and it's visual to have the correct structure in place to support these. It's vital to have the correct structure in place to support these changes and implement them effectively. Today, we're going to talk about change management and how to build the structure you need to help your team accept the changes necessary to improve and move forward. We don't want to approach our team looking for things that are wrong. Instead, we want to guide our team members with a why we do things a certain way. Nobody wants to hear that's how corporate wants it. And it's all about how you structure your approach. The art of structure. So for our objectives today, we're going to be looking at investigate the 5 components of the change process, identify how resistance impacts change, learn how to build a change-ready environment, learn how to shift resistance in a positive way, and recognize change readiness factors. There's evidence of a model change as far back as medieval times. The medieval model of change is the wheel of life, and it's a wheel shown here on the left of the screen. We're always in one of these positions: happiness, loss, suffering, hope. Suffering means to experience or to allow. It's out of suffering that hope arises. The circle of life, like Mufasa all explained to us. The emotions of change are expected and normal. They really can't be avoided and are accepted in yourself and others, and were accepted in mutable life. However, today we refer to it as the cycle of change, and we go from I don't like it to bouncing back from change. This is the wheel, and you see on the right side of the screen, and there's 6 steps. So the steps we have are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse. So why would we need structure? Well, I can think of in our environment, especially, structure is important because without it, you can't really diagnose an outcome a lot of times. We've all maybe had a manager that we worked for that maybe came in and didn't have the best approach and just kind of came in and is like, this is what we're doing. And you've got to then hand that down to the hourly team members, whether culinary or in the hospitality side. And all you're met with is, I don't want to do that, or why would we need to do that? You're just getting a lot of like negative feedback, and you as the messenger maybe could have had some tools to help get from point A to point Z, and that's what we're going to learn today. Now, to truly understand how to best implement change in your restaurant, you first need to understand how to overcome the largest obstacle standing in your way: resistance from team members. The inevitable reaction of people is to oppose change. This usually stems from individual feels of vulnerability, of loss, and control. Even though we cannot control change, we may oppose change, and that brings about resistance. So I would like you all to do a quick little activity. Wherever you are right now, I want you to cross your arms. Perfect, arms crossed, great. Now, I want you to cross your arms the other way, like undo whatever you need to do. Maybe you kind of have to think about it because you have that muscle memory of right over left, left over right. Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Did you have trouble doing it the first time? Did you go right back to the way that you knew? Maybe you're a little embarrassed. You might imagine how a team member would feel when you tell them metaphorically, cross their arms the other way. So, why do we need structure for change? There are 4 primary drivers of resistance, which we've shown here. Each is an obstacle to overcome as you operate your restaurant. And there are factors you want to consider when you ask people to change their way of doing something. First, we have fear, the F word. Your team members might be afraid of looking silly, performing poorly, doing the wrong task. Nobody likes to be wrong. Your team members also might feel powerless. What if, like the only thing, what if they are the only one trying to do things correctly? What if they had been reprimanded for doing something different in the past, so they're afraid to stray from the norm now? Next, Newton's first law of motion, inertia. Our team members are going to take that path that feels the easiest, and change is always uncomfortable. It takes extra effort, so we need to make the change feel as easy and simple as possible. And last but not least, what's in it for me?
Calling P.F. Chang's. To place,
How do you
please
show
visit
your team members that
pfchangs.com.
this practice
To place a
will
pickup
help
or
them
catering
instead of
order over the
just
phone,
making
make a
their job
reservation, or
harder?
speak with a team member, please hold on the line and we will be with you shortly.
There are also several different behaviors you might see exhibited when your team is resisting you. We call these resistant types, and it's good to recognize them so you can tailor your approach to the team members accordingly to get them on board with the changes needed. The block, I just don't want to participate. The rollover, just tell me what you want me to do. The stall, I can't get to that now, but maybe in the future. The tradition, we don't do it that way here. So if change is desired, does it make it any easier? You want to make people feel as though they want the change. So how can you create structure for change? To create a culture and structure for change, you're going to need shift. The resistance you are experiencing with your team, it's going to be helpful to utilize this process to help shift people into the change with less resistance. So shifts, start with the S, surface. The resistance by making it safe to express it. Listen carefully and be certain that you understand the root cause. Always super important. Honor. The resistance by affirming the person's right to resist. Reassure that you understand, letting the person know that you appreciate the insight. Identify. The kind of resistance. Differentiate between current resistance and former grudges, resentment, or a need for attention. That's the kind of block, stall, rollover tradition that we just mentioned on the previous slide. Find what the resistor would prefer and begin to work toward a common objective. Check the status to learn if any agreement has been reached. And think thank the person and move on. Although the shift process often works, you're not going to win everybody over, and you're not going to be able to eliminate resistance. This process, you're learning to build trust with your team members. Trust is the foundation of successful change. I think we've all felt that a time or two. The old, do it because I said so, just doesn't work. There's no trust behind it. It causes blame, and everything goes to the because of corporate. Then that's not any kind of attitude or the culture that we want to build in our restaurants. So you've just got to take some ownership and do your best to build the trust with your team to get the change needed. Here's some stats. When there's resistance, you should realize that people move toward change at different rates of speed. Innovators make up 2.5% of the population and are the first to embrace change. Early adapters make up 13.5% of the population and like to take on new challenges. Trendsetters, influential with team members. We have some of those, I'm sure all of us can relate. The early majority, 34% of individuals are thoughtful about change initially and become positive based on observation. They become deliberate acceptors of change. The late majority includes another 34% of the population who are skeptical about change, subject to peer pressure. The laggards include 16% of all individuals who hold on to the past to resist change. This becomes a problem if they reject change completely. These are sometimes called cave dwellers. CAVE standing for colleagues against virtually everything. So it's important to realize that you'll have more early adapters and early majority if leaders build trust through the organization. Pretty much, it's the majority, whether they're early adapter or early majority, you're going to get a good result there. So let's take a look at 5 basic components to the process of change. There must be a process in place for planned change to occur successfully. First, you'll start with your vision. What is the change that you are hoping to see? Is it attainable? Next, you'll need to determine what skills are needed to achieve the change. Does your team possess these skills already, or is it something that we'll have to learn? After that, establish what resources are available to you that can support this change, and then determine the incentives that will exist for your team. Remember, what's in it for me? And lastly, you can take these tools and build an action plan. How you tackle this change using vision, skills, incentives, and resources. Notice that this process is all based upon trust, the underlining method here. We talked about the importance of building trust with your team in order to implement effective change. A leader must encourage involvement early on in this process. Involvement encompasses all the components. If more people are involved from the beginning, change implementation would be much smoother and more cooperative. So here's an image of the 5 basic components to the process of change. There must be a process in place for planned change to occur successfully. You see, when all the elements are used together, you're going to experience effective change. But what if we're missing one of the pieces? For example, say we miss the step where we clearly leave out the vision. Okay, so here's an activity. In this picture, there's a 5-pointed star. And if you can see it, give me a thumbs up or a heart or a shout out. Don't tell your neighbor if you're in the office or in a room with another participant. Perfect. I'm sure everybody's seen it by now that half the screen was eliminated. Now everybody see it? Perfect. I got one thumbs up. See, when a vision is clearly narrowed and specifically presented, it's easier for everyone to see that vision. I could have made the vision easier by telling everyone that it's a 5-pointed star, or that it's an upper left corner, or that it was made up of black and white triangles. This is the vision your team needs to see when you're presenting change. You're explaining why we're changing, why it's important. You're providing clarity and focus, and everybody's able to move together in the same direction. Now, what if we're missing a different element? This time, let's look at an instance where we're going to be missing skills or resources. Okay, one more activity. This time, if you can create either a boot or a shirt from a dollar bill, I'll pause for a minute to give you a chance. Probably know a few people who could actually do this. Could anybody actually make the origami? And how many of you immediately went scrambling for $1? Fresno raised their hand. We have a magician on our team. And how many could actually make a boot or a shirt? Or maybe, how did you feel without the skill or the tools to complete the task? Me, I'm over here. Where's my SOP? How do your people feel when they don't get the appropriate training or have the tools to work? And how successful would they be, or would they have been if they were given the training? And maybe we've all been guilty of expecting people to get a job done without tools or skills. Back to the chart. How about if we're lacking incentive? Incentives, people want incentives and they get more excited about it when the incentive is something that they want. But it's also important to remember that not everyone likes the same incentives. What is an incentive for you? Anybody want to chime in? Me, I incentive, I like coffee, Starbucks, shout outs from Mary.
I was gonna say, I'm with you there, Amy. That's the way to my heart.
I mean, we think about this celebrations we do for our teams, but also sometimes we run contests because ultimately what we need are better beverage IPC results. And so maybe you run a contest over the weekend. What is the incentive? Are they getting a pizza party? Do you have some gift cards to hand out? You know, lots of things, but it could pertain as well to Lucky Cat Assistance Fund donations. There's lots of things that we can do to incentivize. Lastly, without an action plan, you're going to see nothing but false starts. You may get the ball rolling, but where it'll end, nobody knows because there was no action plan. So you can see all the elements are vitally important and they rely upon that foundation of trust between you and your team members and yourself. So that's our presentation, but there is an activity that everybody can take with them. So there are 7 traits that can indicate your ability to change. So there's some homework. And with the recap from the email, Mary will attach the assessment that follows. And that'll allow you to determine which change readiness traits you possess. After the call, take the assessment and use the job aid that's also attached to the email to best understand your approach to change management, because everybody's a little bit different. We know that with like your Clifton strengths, but this is just a little bit different. This has to relate specifically on the art of structure and where you fall in line. And as you're working in and trying to improve your restaurants, remember that change is constant. It's a process, not an event. Is made by individuals first, is a highly personal experience. It entails development of skills and feelings, is both top down and bottom up. A shared vision is key. That's a big one. Everybody kind of has to be on the same team, whether you're in that, even just that 34% is a shared vision. And flexibility and innovation are necessary for sustained growth. I think that's one of the biggest takeaway with these soft skills calls that we're having, is we're learning where the flexibility and innovation are necessary, because it pertains to a lot of the subjects that we talked about. Anybody have any questions? Probably not. Go ahead, Mary, take it away.
Because you did such an amazing job, Amy. Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon. And thank you again, Amy, for taking us through the art of change management. Do you feel like all of your managers have a great approach to change? And do you have the best approach to change? We've all been through a lot these last few years. And so a lot of these nuances that you need to really get your team on board and build that trust with your team just weren't the most important for us at the time. So again, with the recap, I'll be sending out that change readiness assessment. Take the assessment, have all the members of your management team take the assessment, review the results at your next manager meeting, but really try to understand what your best approach to change management is so you can be the most effective. But thank you guys so much. It's always great spending a Wednesday afternoon with you, but have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys. Have a good one.